So I'm going to be talking about why the left will never admit that immigration is a problem, and there's no point arguing with them. They've got too much skin in the game. And I wanted to start with this from Morgoth because it frames it very nicely. And he says, "Here's what I don't understand. My feed is relentless churn of sexual assault, murder, gore perpetrated by the immigrants the government has brought here. Now, even if we account for the fact I'm in a far-right echo chamber, these stories are being carried by the BBC and Sky, etc., plus Independent. So I think, how are leftists / liberals not seeing this? Have they become literal Eloi, with no sense of self-preservation?" I looked up what this was, and it's like,
isn't it the thing from the time travelling thing?
I don't know, but it is basically people who have no self-preservation. So they go up above ground and get eaten.
So there's Orson Welles. He travels into the distant future, and then there are these Eloi who live on the surface, and they're just completely tamed. And at night, whatever they're called, low time preference individuals come out of the caves and snatch them and eat them. And I think that's what it's from. It's an Orson Welles thing.
I think you might be right there.
Yes.
And then he carries on to say, "Don't think that could be them or their kids. It just baffles me." And I've been trying to sort of grapple with this because, being a psychologist, it interests me how people can look at the world, look at this pattern that is so undeniable now. It's in all the mainstream media. It's not like it's some far-right narrative. People see all of the stories we're talking about. People see the patterns. And yet they're not saying anything about it. And I tried to pose an explanation for just sort of normal leftists, I suppose, if that's a bit of an oxymoron, but non-activist class. My thing wasn't working there.
Non-activist class is an oxymoron as well.
You swap those around.
Let me try unplugging the box.
My first attempt at explaining this was, for most people, if something does not affect their life personally, it may as well not be happening. Hopefully that works.
Give it a try.
Okay. Hooray! So for most people, if something does not affect their life personally, it may as well not be happening. I do think that that's a part of it. And then compounding this is the general unwillingness to seek out understanding statistics and probability. And they likely think wrongly that it couldn't happen to them. Because one of the things that I think convinces a lot of right-wingers is that we look at crime data, we know who's overrepresented. And this is a very one-sided thing. And it gives you a very objective, mathematically based approach to look at the world and say, okay, these are the people doing it. We've got the numbers. These aren't deliberately gathered in a biased way.
Yes.
Especially in this day and age. And so...
Well, and also your other point is I worry about this happening to my wife and children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get why the lefties just don't seem to care about that happening.
Well, it's the probability thing, isn't it? In that people know that murder and sexual assault happen in the abstract, but they find it difficult to relate it to their own life because they don't know how frequent it is and how there are an increasing number of people who do this sort of thing. And we look at things like the demographic data and we're extrapolating, okay, well, there are X amount of potential
So you're saying that they don't just not understand per capita, but basically any statistical concept at all?
It seems like there's an unwillingness to engage in it. Maybe if they were more willing, they'd be able to.
Do you not think it's also, but 2 points, I guess. Do you also not think it's an element of willful ignorance of the data? Because there's enough information out there and there's enough publicised talking heads, mainstream media, that have stated just how high immigration has been, for instance. And yet when polled, the majority of the country still thinks it's in like 70,000 rather than 700,000.
But this is the same thing with understanding things like probability and large numbers. Like people really struggle to grapple with it. And it's just a part of human nature. It's not necessarily even a partisan thing. There's also an interesting effect where people who are clinically depressed are much better at estimating the probability of natural disasters and things like that, where there are very interesting things that manipulate your ability to predict the likelihood of a tragedy. And normally quite cynical people seem to actually be better at guessing these sorts of things. And of course... The left are very optimistic about human nature. They might even say people are naturally good, which is insane to me.
Yeah, I don't believe. Do you also not think it's an element of complete lack of critical thinking skills that most people have these days?
Well,
IQs have dropped drastically. The educational system is appalling.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when presented with critical thinking exercises, most people fail.
I think there are too many people who in other areas are too switched on, and then they have this blindness, as well as the fact that the IQ drop I don't think is necessarily amongst natives. I think it's been
I think it
increased.
is. It definitely is.
You reckon?
I've spoken to some, that sounds wrong, I've spoken to some kids, but there's family members that you speak to and you go, no, you're an actual idiot, with all due respect.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think IQ has 100% dropped, for sure.
It's entirely possible, but I think that there's, from my reading of the data, there's some mixed signals. It's not entirely clear.
Yeah, fair.
So there was quite a good example here of something that Elon said that wasn't really that objectionable. And I'm going to play it and then, you know, explain what he was referring to, and then we'll look at some left-wing reactions that are just completely ignoring what's actually being said for their own political gain, really.
Sort of small towns in England, Scotland, Ireland, they've been like sort of living their lives quietly. They're like hobbits, frankly. So it's in fact, J.R.R. Tolkien based the hobbits on people he knew in small town England, because they were just like lovely people who liked to, you know, smoke their pipe and have nice meals, and everything's pleasant. The hobbits in the Shire. So he was talking about, you know, places like Hertfordshire, like the shires around in the Greater London area, Oxfordshire type of thing. But the reason they've been able to enjoy the Shire is because hard men have protected them from the dangers of the world. But since they have almost no exposure to the dangers of the world, they don't realize that they're there until one day, you know, 1,000 people show up in your village of 500 out of nowhere and start raping the kids. This has now happened God knows how many times in Britain. He's like,
so that last part is the thing that most people took exception to. And of course he's being a little bit hyperbolic there, because he's telling what it amounts to an analogy. He's explaining it in a more mythical sense, the nature of the problem. He's not using exact numbers and talking about a specific case per se. However, I think what he is referring to is this. So this was a story from a little while ago, back in February, where asylum seekers were moved to a village called Wethersfield. These are all single male asylum seekers, by the way, and I believe they outnumbered them by at least 100 people at the time of this article. It could even be more now. I don't know the numbers yet. So it only had a population of 707 people, but in February it had over 800 migrants. Let's see if I can find a picture of the place. It's not exactly the best, but obviously this is very similar to what he was saying, that just overnight you can be inundated with nearly 1,000 fighting age men in your very small village. And this was only, you know, a few days ago, I think. End of October. One of the people in RAF Wethersfield, where these migrants are being kept, was posting videos on Snapchat of him owning AK-47s, pistols and knives when he was at home in Yemen. And sort of suggests that maybe these people are a little bit dangerous. I don't know. Obviously he didn't have them here, but he could, you know,
the other thing is they don't kind of close the doors on these asylum centres, because they say, oh, well, they're not prisoners, so they all just wander around the little village
in the community. Yeah, and it's horrifying. And what's even more horrifying is that at the minute, a number of the security staff at this facility have walked out. Apparently 22 out of the 31 security contractors did not show up to the site.
Well, that's not a great loss, because most of them are bloody foreigners anyway. Have you ever seen any of the videos of these places? Most of the security are bloody foreigners, which I just
leading the blind, is it?
Well, yes. I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? It's this circular economy. Bring them in, hire foreigners to secure them. Bring more in, hire foreigners to secure them. Honestly, look at all the videos. I've rarely ever seen any white people that are working the security on these sites. People that can barely string a coherent sentence together, actually. Disgraceful. Actually disgraceful.
So the reaction to what Elon said can be epitomised by this. It's amazing how much leftist discourse is just them pretending not to understand things, thus making discourse impossible.
Shout out to Millennial Woes.
Yes. Out of all the interesting things he said, it surprised me that this one was the one that went really viral, but I've included it anyway, just to add salt to the wound. But here's one of the best examples of, I actually live in a small English village, and it's total codswallop what Elon Musk is saying. We're not hobbits under siege, we're ordinary people. How rude to patronise us like this. It's fear-mongering dressed up as folklore.
Oh, well, okay then, Liz. No worries, mate. You're fine. Don't worry about everyone else.
This
Liz.
is the equivalent of, I know a tall Asian person, therefore not all Asian people are short.
I mean, all it
What a clown
says
show.
is that her particular English village hasn't had an asylum centre yet. I mean, that's all she's saying.
Which is what people were pointing out. And then there were people in the comments just like, I live in a small village and we had an asylum centre and it's terrible.
Mm.
So it's not really disproving it. You have a sample of one to define an entire nation. And it gets worse than that. So, one of our devoted listeners, Russian Garbage Human, replied with this. He is indeed. Points out that she probably lives in a very white area. He mistakenly says it's the Cotswolds, but
Did she reply and just say it's racist?
this is a racist post that assumes crime or social strain is about race. It isn't. There's a deep poverty and social neglect in rural areas too. So all of these farmers going around, committing urban crime.
Oh, so she believes that
That's the real
crime
issue.
is caused by poverty.
Poverty.
Okay, well, why in the Great Depression did crime not go up?
You can look at London as well, and the rates of poverty, poverty as it's measured in the modern sense, are highest amongst Bangladeshis and Pakistanis in London. However, the rates of violent crime, they're not nearly as massively overrepresented as black Londoners, who are actually better off and less likely to be in poverty than they are. And they, of course, commit the majority of violent crime. And so it's absurd, of course. They only represent 13% of London's population.
But have you considered that's just racist?
That's true. But she lives near Swindon, which is interesting because I've lived in Swindon for 5 years and it's the worst place I've ever lived by a mile.
Swindon is genuinely awful.
Yeah.
For crime is
And also, most of the time I'm the only white person here. And if there is another white person, usually they're Eastern European. And they've got a 1,000-yard stare, just like, why did I come here? Why don't I move back to Poland?
Carl does keep insisting every time that I say Swindon is a shithole, which I say at least 3 or 4 times a day. He does keep insisting there's nice bits around the edges. So maybe
that is true. It's sort of like it's like one of those commuter towns that the people who are actually making money drive to London or Reading or Bristol or one of the places where you can actually earn money, because you're not coming to central Swindon, are you?
Well, I am, but God knows.
Yeah, well, we all make mistakes.
Yes.
So she carries on to say, dividing people by race is lazy politics. The real problem is the same everywhere. Inequality, austerity, and government failure.
Oh, okay, so if the government just spent more money, as if it's not spending enough already, there would be no crime.
But there's no getting through to this woman, is there?
Brexit reality.
Yeah,
Social
Brexit reality.
justice.
Social justice, one nation in the hashtags. This is
Ideological indoctrination.
This should be studied.
Yeah.
There's no way.
There needs to be a doctoral thesis on this individual.
You could, Clockwork Orange style, pin her eyes open and show her the crime stats, show her the patterns.
Yes.
It won't make a difference. There's no point. There's really no point. They're lost. Look at it. In the year of our Lord 2025, saying this sort of thing. And then there's a worse bit of information. I'm not sure whether this is true, but it's circulated. At least 175 Afghans were placed in the village of Watchfield overnight and secretly by government under the ARAP program. The local donkey, the name is wrong, I looked up the donkey's name for some reason, was shortly after gang sexually assaulted in her paddock. She now lives under 24/7 CCTV protection. Elon got some details wrong, but the general picture is not good. And he sent this about a donkey assault, and the details are horrible. I'm not going to read them out because I want you to.
That's really really sad.
So the official line is that there is absolutely no connection between nationality and race and crime. However, it was just a complete coincidence that 175 Afghans got shipped to a village and a donkey was immediately raped.
I guess so.
That's so weird thing, but donkeys have a special place in my heart. No, they really do, and it's really sad. Donkey sanctuaries around the country are severely underfunded now. Back when, say, when we were kids, and beyond that, because of course demographics have changed so much, people aren't giving charitably to these places. So, side note: if you're watching, you're in England, go to a donkey sanctuary. They deserve it, right? They need some support. So it's just sad. It's genuinely sad, and it's a choice, isn't it?
And if things get really bad, they can rebrand as brothels.
Well, yeah, in 2050. Yes.
So, Alistair Campbell shared this Liz Webster post saying he is sick and dangerous. And of course, Alistair Campbell, known for working for the government that lied about weapons of mass destruction and led us into Iraq. I don't know about dangerous.
Why is he still a thing?
I don't know. I don't know why he hasn't retired in disgrace, but...
Why anyone still listens to that clown is beyond me.
Speaking of clowns, here is another one.
Eccles.
Yes. He's replying to this. Worries about immigration are manufactured panic, says charity as poll shows issue not a local concern. And he says the immigration crisis is manufactured hysteria created by billionaires to cause panic and fear. I don't know. Maybe it's the people stabbing people in trains or dance classes or targeting our young children. I think that causes enough panic and fear all in its own.
So me and Bo did a segment actually on this exact polling on the state of politics. Go check it out. So what he's quoting there, the manufactured panic, is actually what an activist group stated about the polling, which the polling themselves, the data was misrepresented. So
that sounds about right. Yeah.
That is complete slop. And they got the slop sirens to prove it.
Excellent use of the term slop siren. I love to see it.
Needs to be done.
And just other people, just like, I was in the Peak District yesterday, barely escaped with my life.
Not a single brown person there either.
I know.
Like,
could you make the point?
Could you make the point any clearer?
Because right-wingers see this and they're just like, yeah, well, this is just, it's still a nice English part of the world. It hasn't been touched yet.
I don't see a kebab shop, a vape shop, and people milling around next to a barber's.
No. So, exactly.
Yeah, that's still English. You are proving the point, literally proving the point.
And then Dara O'Brien came out, crawling out of the woodwork, saying, this is genuinely insane. I mean, just worryingly divorced from any reality. How desperate are people to believe this nonsense? Well, we don't want to believe it, but unfortunately we have to because it's the reality we're living in. As I showed you.
I saw this. You are going to do the follow-up, aren't you?
What follow-up?
I think he replies to himself further down. I'm sure you're going to...
Go ahead, Dan. Anyway.
Here we go. No. Where is it? There's basically somebody mentioned something about rape children, and he's like, "What rape children?"
That's right. I did see that. Yeah.
Yes.
And then they're just like, "Have you not heard of the grooming gangs?" And then loads of people tagged.
And there's the thing. It is so mad that I cannot understand. Does he really not know that kids have been raped on an industrial scale? Or is he just saying what he needs to say to secure his next BBC contract? I don't know.
One.
Probably that one.
Yeah.
You have to be living under a rock, and you can't do the kind of work that he does without following the news and knowing what's going on.
Yes.
You have to sort of be able to follow things, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, he did run a show called Mock the Week where they followed the week's news, didn't they?
Yeah.
So
yes, fair point.
He's literally got a science book for kids apparently as well. How disgusting. So you want to make money out of kids, but you're not you don't care about their safety. You're a disgusting individual. Yep. Contemptible.
Well, I promise you, further down, he does say something along the lines of, there are no rape kids.
I did see it. Oh, he deleted it.
Funny.
Here's another one. Musk is descended from people who actually turned up in villages in Africa and stole from, sexually assaulted and murdered the indigenous people. His wealth stems from the emerald mines his ancestors stole. I didn't realise Africans can own the emeralds in the ground.
That's also just not true.
Yeah, he didn't have an emerald mine.
No.
But also they didn't, like, how South Africa functionally became the indigenous. That's not what happened. So it's just a complete misrepresentation of history.
His father was an electrical engineer, not an emerald miner.
And also, South Africa didn't exist until the Europeans turned up and built it. So it's ridiculous. Like,
I don't see them complaining about the the current black population in South Africa that were never indigenous there.
Mm-hmm. The Bantu expansion that is displacing.
There were native people, but they all got
They were
butchered when the Banters. Yeah,
They were just Bushmen. So what he's saying factually just didn't actually happen. That didn't happen.
yes.
And no mention of what's happened now with the current black population
Well, and
that have now
unless-
just displaced everyone anyway. So
Unless Paul O'Connell thinks that Elon is a Bantu, then it
Maybe.
would make sense.
He's an albino.
Yes,
It's
an
possible.
albino Bantu. That could be it.
He needs a little pygmy sidekick. I know you like
Yes.
a good pygmy.
Oh yes.
And then some people are just far less subtle about it. Just action needs to be taken against him.
So the London Economic, they're a left-wing account, are they? They
Yes.
retweet me all the time, and I wondered why.
do they?
Yeah.
Do they?
No, what do they do? They do something with me.
Part
They put
of
me on lists and all that kind of stuff.
part of
Ah.
Politics Joe family, aren't they? So
A very
There
left-wing
we
thing.
go.
and a
gathering
progressive
lists.
voice for a metropolitan community. That can't be more left wing. I get added to lists all the time.
Yeah.
I've,
Well, I remember them popping up recently.
Ah.
but anyway, obviously the patterns are undeniable. Here are just some recent cases that I think this is the Centre for Migration Control has put together and shared by Cunley Druckber.
That is presumably just just October.
Yeah, it may as well be. I think there are a few here, like the Swindon ones I recognise from just under a year ago. So I think this might stretch for the past year, but even so, it's widespread enough. All these
Yes.
sorts of unthinkable things that never would have happened before the age of mass migration. And one of the things that I think is important to bear in mind is, where do these sorts of people live that say these sorts of left-wing things? And the handy-dandy thing is, a lot of polling finds these yellow areas that vote Lib Dem. If you've noticed, all the nice villages that are still nice and untouched by mass migration, they have these Lib Dem signs in their windows. It's very infuriating.
Yeah.
I would like to put a Somali on their front lawn and they can squat down and poo in their roses. But all of these people in these Lib Dem areas that are projected to go Lib Dem, by the way, they haven't voted yet, are isolated because this is sort of the southwest and the rural areas that haven't had contact with these people. Areas that have had contact with them are turning to reform in droves. Look at it, even south of Wales,
So I live in the very yellow bit near the bottom there, and
this one here.
it's very nice because it's homogeneous and there's no crime and stuff like that. The downside is all your neighbours are upper middle class lefty twats who don't have a clue what's going on in the world.
Bunch of midwits.
Even down in my neck of the woods there, which is still the last city in England that's 90% plus white British, has gone reform.
Right.
Because they've just had, basically down that way, we had an influx of black people and then crime went up.
Yeah.
Stranger things have
Another
happened.
coincidence.
And of course, it's worth looking at the fact that these Lib Dem areas, oh look, it's the block of the white bit of southern England. It's funny how there's this overlap. It's almost like you don't have any contact with the people that are making all of the people who live here, all the natives, their life hell. And it will be coming to them, though, because Labour's planning to disperse more asylum seekers and just immigrants more generally into smaller towns. Operation Scatter, isn't it?
I hate this so much.
It's
On their
evil.
recent report that they released, talking about the cost and just the process that happened, and their take homes. Their take homes were the most infuriating thing ever. I hate this so very much.
I was annoyed enough when they were integrating social housing with new builds and things like that. So if you buy a new house, you have to live.
Must have there's an allocation for social
Like
housing. in
that's
every single
quite
unit area.
old now, and even that made me furious. So this is even worse. And of course, there were people talking about the Lord of the Rings analogy as well. Blah blah blah. But I'll skip over this, I think. But basically, he's outlining how before in England people were good, and there were hard men who defended them, which basically amounts to soldiers and borders.
Yeah.
And that allowed us to have the quality of life and a good civil society. and now we're being exposed to what amounts to the scouring of the Shire. Although he does say the time for the English to ally with hard men like Tommy Robinson and fight for the survival, or they shall surely all perish. I don't know about that one.
There's a really good old quote. I can't remember who to attribute it to or exactly how it goes, but it was something like, the reason you can sleep softly in your bed is because hard men stand ready in the night. It was something like that. And that was from the early part of the century. Problem is because those hard men did their job so well, it was actually peaceful to sleep at night. So eventually people thought, well, why don't we just get rid of the hard men then?
Yeah, luxury beliefs have set in.
It is luxury beliefs, yeah.
This is the thing. Yeah.
And then people were going on and on about the Lord of the Rings analogies and not getting Lord of the Rings, like people saying Lord of the Rings is about diversity overcoming hardship.
It's not.
Which I will be addressing in a round table at some point, because I'm sick of it.
It's just simply not the case.
And lots of mainstream outlets picked it up as well, compared Brits to hobbits before making outrageous immigration claims.
Brilliant.
To be honest, the reality is worse than he outlined there.
Brilliant.
And things like this. Elon Musk really doesn't get the Lord of the Rings, just trying to point out that, he's stupid, he doesn't get a film, and things like that. It's just missing the point, ignoring the immigration comments altogether. But the point being that these people don't have an incentive to learn from any of the lessons that we have, to notice these patterns, to look at the crime data and admit the hard realities. And many of them are isolated from the actual realities because they don't experience it in the day-to-day. And the unfortunate reality is that unless people experience something directly, most people cannot understand something, which is very frustrating to me, because you should be able to see something on a screen or read a news story or read about it and understand it, but unfortunately that's not the world we live in. People actually need to experience these things, and I don't see this going away. It seems to be an intrinsic part of human nature, and so my lesson is this: there might be a few people on the left, the soft left, that you can convince, but some of the devoted activists, don't even bother, don't even engage with them. It's a waste of your time. If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.